Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is wonderful to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Samantha and I am a knitter, knitwear designer, and podcaster living in the Arctic Circle of Norway. And we are having a particularly beautiful sunny day, still very cold but sunny, so I decided it is a good time to film a little, not a podcast, but like a video for you guys. So what I want to do today, and I know that it's late because it is like halfway through March, like I think we're done with the better half of March now. But I have not taken you guys through my Make 9 plans, so I am going to do that today. And you know, the Make 9 are always this aspirational thing. I have noticed now, just because of the stage of life that I'm at, I really enjoy knitting more for my baby girl than I knit for myself, but my Make 9s are predominantly for myself, and that's because they're kind of just like this, like, oh, I would love to knit this, but I'm not kind of holding myself to any of the plans, if that makes sense. It's something that I would like to do. So yeah, without any further ado, these are my Make 9 for 2025. The first thing on my Make 9 list, I'm just diving right into it. The first item on my Make 9 is the Beepo blouse by Eyre. And this is a beautiful, it's this oversized drop shoulder, like a polo collared-ish shirt. It kind of reminds me of the Elizabeth blouse, but it is more oversized than that. And that is something that I would like in my wardrobe. I have been kind of rebuilding my wardrobe from the ground up, not just because my body went through a lot. I obviously went through 9 months of pregnancy, and then I had a baby, and now I'm 7 months postpartum, and I kind of like, I'm back in my old pre-pregnancy clothes, but I just decided that I wanted to change it up a bit. I wanted, I just wanted a little bit of, a wardrobe shift, to kind of reflect where I am now in life. So kind of the things that I like wearing now are more, they're more professional, I guess, is the word that I just automatically would use to describe my current style. Like, I like wearing button-down shirts, I like wearing tailored trousers, I like knitwear that can transition you from the office to just a nice weekend brunch. I'm really into versatile things. It's funny because as a parent of a small kid, I feel like you should be leaning away maybe from like hard to care for materials, but I've been investing more in natural fiber pieces like silks and cashmere and wool. I mean, I knit a lot of cashmere and wool, so I've been investing more in those yarns, but I buy a lot of silk, linen, just materials that will kind of stand the test of time, but they do need a little bit more TLC. All that to say that I think that the Beepo blouse fits into my style aspirations pretty well. I think this is, it's like this very nice, it's a very casual silhouette, but also I think that it could look, I mean, maybe it's not like an office piece, but it looks good with like some nice pants. And maybe, I don't know, with your hair up and like some nice jewelry and thing that could fit in. And that's kind of what I am going for with it. I want this to be a more versatile, like casual office and a little bit more dressy weekend wear piece for myself. So the yarn in the pattern is Filcolana Pernilla and Telia held together. And this is a strand of fingering weight 100% merino wool and a strand of kid silk. But my plans for my 2025 Make 9 are to mostly use what I have in my stash, and to not welcome too much new yarn into my stash unless I like really have a purpose for it. And I have lots of sweater quantities of yarn in my stash that I bought, but I don't really, because I do design knitwear, right? So sometimes I buy yarn in sweater quantities and I'm like, you know, eventually I'll look at this and something will hit me and I'll design for it. And I think I've bought so much that I can't really do that now, especially now that I'm knitting so much baby stuff and making baby patterns and putting a lot of my creative energy there. And sometimes I just want to sit back and have a nice, already tech edited test knit pattern that I can just knit on no deadline whatsoever. So I am going to be using, I'm just dropping all my yarn. I'll pick that up later. I will be using the sweaters quantity of Oslo Microspinnery Pelsgull that I have in my stash. So I have 10 skeins of this. Each skein is 110 meters, so I have 1,100 meters of this yarn in my stash. And for my size in the pattern, I would need about 1,200 meters. So I calculated that, and I do have a little bit less of this yarn. But I think the plan is, because the final length of the sweater is supposed to be 58 centimeters. And on me, that is very long. I like my sweaters to sit around 51 centimeters long max, because I have a very short torso. So I'm thinking that I can get away with one less skein of yarn if I'm making it shorter. And I'm just going to hold this single, and the pattern calls for 4mm needles. So I do have some of this from a different dye lot that is so different that I just cannot use it in the same sweater, because they are like a hand dyer. So obviously you're going to have quite a bit of variation between the different dye lots. But I think I'm going to swatch with that, and then kind of see where I end up if I have to go up or down a needle size, because this can vary. This is a different composition too. So this is just, I don't know if you can see like the little details in it, but it's this very warm chestnut brown. It's called hazelnut actually. And it is, like I said before, 110 meters on a 50-gram hank, and it is 70% norsk pelsull, which is like sheep's wool, and 30% mulberry silk, and this is made in Norway. So the yarn is produced in Norway and dyed in Norway, so it's very special. I think it's wonderfully soft. It has a really nice little fuzzy halo that comes from the mulberry silk. So I think that will be really nice, because I get asked, I think I had a comment on my channel earlier about like a lot of knitwear designers hold mohair with another strand of yarn, and yes, that is something that I do a lot as well in my designs, and that's just because that is my knitting preference. I like to hold a strand of mohair with my other yarns when I knit, and I think that's because even the slightest changes in tension are like really visible, I think anyway, in stockinette stitch, when you're just looking at, like, for example, maybe like a 4-ply yarn, like a 4-ply fingering, like merino or silk. If you just knit with that one strand, I think it is extremely easy to tell in any spots where your tension is wonky. And if you hold some mulberry silk or kid silk mohair along with that, it does, I think, kind of help camouflage any potential wonkiness, and then that plus the blocking will really help even out any stitches. So unless you've made like a huge mistake, it's pretty forgiving, and I do like that. So I like that there is a good little fuzziness going on in here. Yeah, it's just, I am really excited to knit this. I've had this yarn in my stash. I think it was shipped to me around the time I got married at the end of 2023. So I have had this in my stash for quite a while, and I'm so excited to have a plan for it and to use it. So yeah, that is my first Make 9 item, and I obviously have not cast that on. So that is still very much an aspirational Make 9. The next item on my Make 9 list, and I will have to fish the yarn out for this because it did fall, excuse me. Oh my goodness. There we go. The next item on my Make 9 is the Guernsey Genser Baby, or Guernsey Sweater Baby, which is a pattern by Sandnes Garn. And this is a relatively recent pattern. Sandnes Garn came out with their Guernsey sweater pattern a couple years ago, and they have since come out with a Guernsey Sweater Junior, which is like a 2-year-old size up until, like, I want to say 12 years maybe. I'm not quite sure what the upper limit of that is. But then they just recently came out with a Guernsey Sweater Baby. And this one goes from like a couple months of age until 2 years. And the difference in this pattern is that you don't hold kid silk mohair. So everything I just said about kid silk mohair, we're throwing out the window for this one, because this is a knit for my baby girl. I am going to knit the 2-year size, so she will obviously have more developed nasal passages and airways and everything by then, but I still, I wanted to knit her the version without mohair, just as a personal preference. So I bought the pattern for the Guernsey Genser sweater. Genser means sweater in Norwegian, so those two words are interchangeable. So the Guernsey Genser Baby, and I bought the double Sunday yarn that goes with it, because now, so before Sandnes Garn used to sell like catalogs, like they would make like summer knitting for babies, right, or like soft start for babies, or I'm translating in my head, and they would make collections like that. And basically what you had to do was you bought enough yarn to make one pattern in the booklet, and then you got the booklet in addition, right? And that's kind of their business model. That's how they make sure that you're buying their yarn and not maybe a cheaper yarn like Drops, for instance, if you want to knit one of their patterns. But what they do now is they only sell the individual patterns with the purchase of yarn. So I bought the yarn to make the pattern, like as a package. So this is Double Sunday, which is the pattern that they recommend in the pattern. And this is one of the petite knit colorways. I'll hold it so you can hopefully see. I think this is a really, really pretty color for a little baby girl. And it is in the colorway 3521, and off the top of my head I want to say this is like ballet slippers or something along those lines. And it is 100% merino wool. It is meant for use on 3.5 to 4 millimeter needles. I think you use 4 millimeter needles in the pattern. And it is 108 meters in 50 grams. So this is a pretty solidly DK weight yarn, right? Because Sunday is a fingering, double Sunday, so yeah, it's a DK weight yarn. And it feels incredibly soft. So I really like that. I think it might be something that she could wear right against her skin, which is also nice. Obviously she's not going to wear this to daycare because it is a non-superwash yarn, and we're just going to stay away from hand knits at daycare, I think. But yeah, that is going to be the Guernsey Genser Baby. And hopefully, like, I'm not planning on casting this on too soon because, like I mentioned, I'm planning on knitting the 2-year size. So I kind of like the way that I've organized my baby/child knitting is I go by smallest size first, So like whatever I want to make that's like in the 1 year size, that's what I'm making now to have it like ready for her. And then after I finish that, then I move on to like the bigger sizes. Yeah, so I will cast that on after I've finished my baby knitting plans. There we go. Okay, the next item on my Make 9 I actually don't have the yarn for. This is one that I will be buying yarn. So I want to knit the Chestnut dress by Petite Knit, and what inspired this or like influenced me was Knits by Autumn on Instagram, and I will link her gorgeous version of the Chestnut dress here. But she made a really nice version of the Chestnut dress in Drops Charisma and Drops Kid Silk. So what had been keeping me away from this pattern in the past is like, one, it would just take forever, right? I think because the Chestnut dress is this very long, oversized knit dress, and it's like, oh my gosh, stockinette island. So you'd be knitting stockinette on that thing for weeks, I feel like. And that was kind of keeping me from doing it, is that it's a very involved project, and also the yarn is very expensive. So when I saw her version, which is definitely more of a budget-friendly version, like Charisma you can get here for like $1 and some change per ball. So that to me is very doable. And the Kid Silk is obviously the pricier part of that, but Drops Kid Silk is still kind of more economic. So I want to make the Chestnut dress, and I want to make it in Drops Charisma and Kid Silk. And I want to do it kind of similar to the shades that she did it in. I want to use Charisma in light beige, but I want to use Kid Silk in marzipan instead, because that is a perfect match. Instead of using the Kid Silk light beige, which is more of a like gray beige, like a darker beige than the Charisma. So I want it to be this like very light tan, almost off-white oversized dress that I can wear in the fall and the winter. It still looks very put together, very professional, especially with like heels or something, like nice footwear, which I would wear in the office probably. And like it's very easy to accessorize. It's very easy, like it's one of those deceptive clothing items, I feel like, which is like it looks very polished and put together, but also you can just throw it on and it's very easy. You don't have to like find matching pants. So I really want to make that, and I want to welcome that into my wardrobe, but I don't have the yarn for it, so I probably will be holding off on that for a little bit. But yeah, that is that's definitely one of my, yeah, that earns a spot on my Make 9 list, because that's like, I decided, even if I don't make it in 2025 is the year that I have decided I am making the Chestnut dress. Yes. So my next item on my Make 9 is also a Petite Knit pattern. It is the September sweater, which I have never actually done brioche knitting. I don't know, I've always just been busy knitting other things. It's not that I don't like the look of it, obviously, because I put it on my Make 9, but I've always just been busy knitting something or the other. Like I've been very into cables, or very into textured knitting, or I just want a stockinette project, or I'm exploring a new construction, whatever. But I've decided that I want to try my hand at brioche knitting. I have done a half fisherman's rib in the past, so I imagine it'll be slightly similar, but I don't, and obviously why make things easy for yourself when instead you can just jump into the deep end, right? So I don't want to just make the September sweater. I want to do the September sweater mod by Lialika, which it's kind of like the September sweater is this like straight brioche stitch, but in the mod you do these like decreases that creates this really nice shape near the bust, that I think looks very polished. And I mean, it's this combination of like, it looks really polished, and then it also looks like it can't be store-bought, because I mean, can machines knit like that? I don't know, but I think it's like it's very hand knit, but also very stylish. Like, you know what I mean, right? That combination. Yeah. So that's what I want to make. And I want to make it in one strand of Drops Eyre. This has been in my stash since I did, like, I think one of my first videos ever on my channel was like my Drops yarn haul. I'll like link that video here if you want to go take a look at it, because I have used quite a bit of that Drops yarn now, and I'm quite proud of myself for having used that up. But this is still sitting in my stash, and it is Drops Eyre in the color 37, which is Bluebird. And it's just really, really pretty, like very electric, cobalt, bright blue. That is just absolutely gorgeous. And I think it would look really nice in a brioche stitch sweater. I was tempted to go a little more neutral, but I think I've been leaning very neutral in the sweaters I make for myself now, just because I'm doing a little style shift. So I think like this color works really well with a lot of the colors that I already wear. So I do a lot of like light blues, beige, white, black. I have some like pops of color, like some reds, some greens, like an emerald and a bright green shirt that I just love. But yeah, I every so often I look at welcoming pops of color into my closet, and I think this is one of them. So if you don't already know, I've talked so extensively about Drops Eyre on this channel, but Drops Eyre is it's an Eyre and weight yarn. So it's meant to be used on 5mm needles, and I did check like Ravelry project pages actually is what gave me the inspiration for this, because somebody else made their September sweater in Drops Eyre. And it is 65% alpaca, 28% polyamide, 7% wool, and the polyamide is like the tube structure, which I don't think I can show you too well. It's a blown yarn. So basically what that means is like there's this tube. I don't know if you can see that. There's these little white things that are basically the polyamide tube, and then the fibers are like blown through the tube. And that's how you make yarn like this. So yeah, I like Drops Eyre. I think it's extremely soft. It feels really good to wear. It does pill like blown yarns tend to do, but I think it's nice. It's one of my favorite yarns. So that is going to be the September sweater mod by Petite Knit and Riviera. All right. My next sweater, my next make 9 item, I also don't have the yarn for, and that's kind of for a good reason, I think at least. So I want to make the Christolen, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right, Christolen cardigan by Sumin Kim. And this is this absolutely gorgeous colorwork Fair Isle top down cardigan. I think it has drop shoulders. It has like a really nice collar detail. So I really want to make this because I have never steeked a garment either. And now I have a sewing machine. So I think that I would really love to try steeking. And the yarn that is recommended in this pattern is the Biche et Bouche, Le Lamb's Wool, and Le Gros Silk et Mohair. So I really want to try Biche and Bouche, and I think they have like a kit for the Christolen cardigan, and I want to buy that, and I want to try it out in the colors that she made her sample in, which is like the medium blue and the off-white. I think that is just so beautiful. That is so perfect for Norwegian winter. I've just been like in love with that combination. I made my my chunky Marius sweater in that color combination. I recently designed the Azulejos sweater for Hobby in that color combination as well. It's just like, I don't know, something about the contrast, and I just love that shade of blue. And yeah, so I want to make it in those colors. That is the Christolen cardigan. I think that's like the 5th item on my make 9. So now we're like halfway through it. Okay, and the rest are all my own patterns or my own visions. So yeah, that's a bit of a shift, I guess. So the next thing I want to make, I don't even really have a name for, but I saw this yellow cabled cardigan on Doen's website. Doen is like one of these brands that I've been like eyeing because they have such beautiful clothes, but I haven't like bit the bullet and bought anything from them, because they are also very expensive clothes. And I think that they don't have import duties included to Norway. I could be wrong. Norway is one of those countries where unfortunately everything that we import, even from the EU, if it's above 300 kroner, which is like $30, you have to pay import tax on it, which is, it boggles the mind, honestly. It's definitely one of my I don't know, my pet peeves, I guess, about ordering anything from outside. Like I love Cezanne. I order a lot of Cezanne clothes, and the prices in the Nook, guys, are so marked up because of that import fee. But I digress. I want to make a cardigan that's kind of inspired by it, but not, like, obviously not the same, because you can see this yarn is very, very thick. This is Puffin by Quince & Co. in the shade Parchment, which I think has been discontinued. I looked on their website and I can't find it anymore. So I'm glad I got my hands on it when I did. And Puffin is a 100% American wool. It is 102 meters in 100 grams. So it's like a very, very chunky, bulky yarn. It is meant, I think they're like, you can use anywhere between, I want to say 9mm and 11mm, something like that. This is US sizes. So this is US size 10.5 to US size 13, which I think is up to 11mm. So yeah, this is like a single ply kind of. And I want to make a chunky version of that cardigan, but like my challenge here kind of to myself is I don't want it to be one of those like boxy, chunky, they have their place for sure, those kind of sweaters, but that's not what I want to make. I want to make something that's more feminine. I just keep using that word. I want to make something that's more reminiscent of what you see in the Doen pictures. Whatever that word is, you fill in the blank. But I want to make something that has better definition, I think, on, like, I want the wrists to be well defined and I want the waist to come in. I want it to be something that I can wear easily over like springy dresses is the plan, because in spring in Norway it's still quite cold. Today it's still below freezing. So I definitely need some extra warmth on top, and that will be this cardigan. Yeah, so I'm thinking I want to do like a rib cable type motif. Maybe I'll do like a saddle shoulder. I think that could be really nice, because I don't want to do a drop shoulder because I think that adds a lot of bulk in, and with a bulky yarn like this, I want to streamline as much as possible. Like, I want a bit of wiggle room, but I also want more of a, like, not a form-fitting, but like a design that kind of follows the contours of your shoulders and your arms and your waist, and, you know, yeah. So that is something that I want to design and make, and I am extra tempted to do it because I have some fingering weight yarn. I think it's Sandnes Garn Sunday in a very, very similar shade to this, and I want to make a matching little cardigan for my baby girl. And I want to have that ready. I've kind of set a deadline for myself. I want to have that ready by next Easter, because obviously this Easter is like way too much of an ask with everything else that I have going on. So yeah, next Easter I want to be able to wear that with her, and we can match. We can do a little Easter egg hunt because she'll be toddling, so it will just be so much fun. And that, I think, is going to spur me on to just go ahead and make my own, because that's going to be the hardest part. Making her mini version is going to take like a couple days. Baby knits go very fast, but I think the challenge of getting around this chunky weight yarn and then also knitting something that feels a bit more polished with it, that's going to take me a bit of time. So that is one of my goals for 2025. All right, my next Make 9, I've already finished actually. So I had the Eyre pullover baby as one of the items on my Make 9. And that is the only item on my Make 9 that I have actually started, and I finished it. So the Eyre pullover, as I mentioned in my last podcast episode, is one of my favorite patterns that I have ever made. It is this... It's knit in chunky, because it's double-stranded drops Eyre, the adult version. It's knit on 9mm needles from the top down in a raglan construction seamlessly, lots of cables. It is a very, very involved project. And I wanted to make a little, it's not matching, but it's complementary, because I knit mine in like a blush pink. I think it's called Sand. And I knit my daughter's in Heather. So this is a purple and mine is in a pink. But this is single-stranded drops Eyre, knit on 4mm needles. This is the sample size 1 to 2 years in my grading. And I think it just came out so well. I am so pleased with this. I wanted buttons. You don't have to use them, I guess, if you don't want to, because like this is a fairly big, like, the head, it opens quite a lot, but like, you know, if you want a little bit of help, the buttons are still like, they come out and yeah, go back like this. So yeah, one of my Make 9 that I actually already made. And the fun thing I think with this sweater that I learned how to do is I noticed on one of my cable repeats, I think it was a cable on the front, these ones, like not the center cable, but the ones that flank the center cable, I messed up. I twisted the wrong way on the wrong cable. And I noticed when I had already gone through a couple cable repeats, and it devastated me because I mean, it's just a baby knit, right? Like I could have just wound back and redone it and it would have only been a couple days, but I was just so sad when I discovered it. And what I did was I went over to Roxanne Richardson's channel because she knows everything about knitting, I swear. And she had a video for how to ladder down and fix cables when you miscross the cable. So I did that. I just went and I laddered back the cable stitches all the way, and it was terrifying. And then I used I re-knit the stitches, and I used a crochet hook to kind of pick up that last one where it was a bit difficult. And it was harder because like I was trying to figure out how to do this, but like also these stitches are like twisted knits and purls in the cable. So it was like, oh no, this is so much harder than just picking up a normal cable, at least at first. But I am so proud of myself for figuring that out. And now I just have that skill in my toolbox and I can use it whenever I twist a cable and never have to worry about that again. So that feels so good, right? To learn a new skill that you just know that you will be able to use now. Like you're like, oh, I don't need to be worried about this anymore because I know how to fix it. So that was, I think, a great little start to to this. And I'm so excited to wear this, and not wear this obviously, but like wear mine and match with my little girl in her Eyre pullover mini. So yes, I can tick that one off. 1 down, 8 to go. Okay, my next item on my Make 9, second to last actually, this is number 8, is a banlieue blouse. I have made the banlieue cardigan, that's my own design, in 2 separate colorways now. I made one in red in this duvet d'Anjou that I picked up. It's predominantly an Angora yarn that I picked up at La Droguerie, which is a French yarn store. And then I made a second sample of the banlieue cardigan in Drop Sky in white, which is just a bit more neutral. It gets a little more wear, I think. And I really like the motif. I did a lot of work with the grading. That was one of my most intense patterns, I think. I have charted instructions, I have written out instructions, I have written out instructions for the increase. It's like it's a beast of a pattern, but it has everything you need in there. I have like long version, short version. So I figure let's use all that work and revisit the banlieue pattern. And I wanted to make a banlieue blouse for warmer days. So I'm thinking of using this yarn for it. This is Pearl Soho Gury, which has been discontinued now, so I would have to find a good alternative to recommend for test knitters, I mean. So this is 100% super kid silk mohair, and it is 50 grams for 137 yards. I do not know what that is in meters off the top of my head. And US size 3 or 4 needles. And this is the color Ice Cap Blue. I also have the color Riviera Blue, I think, which is like, it's kind of like the shade of Drops Eyre that I just showed you. The thing that I love about this is how much of a sheen it has. It has a beautiful shine to it. And I have swatched this on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I really like the texture. So basically the next steps are just to grade and to knit my sample. And I have I now knit my size 2 instead of my size 1. I always used to knit my size 1 because I had a bust size of 73 centimeters, and now I've gone up to like 77, but I do like having a little bit more room in there, so I knit my size 2. So I think with this as well, I will end up knitting my size 2, which is probably going to be, I want to grade it so that it has not a ton of positive ease. I want to say like 5 to 10 centimeters of positive ease. So my sample is probably going to be like 90 centimeters around the bust, probably for size 2, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm excited to revisit that motif and just, yeah, make something new and beautiful out of it. I'm thinking I want to do like, I still want to keep the raglan pattern, but I'm thinking instead of like the flared out sleeves that the banlieue cardigan has, I want to do more of a puff sleeve, and then obviously instead of buttoning in the front, it's going to be like a blouse, and I think I'm gonna have to, because the banlieue cardigan is a v-neck cardigan, but I don't really want a v-neck blouse, but I also don't want something that sits really high up. So I'm gonna have to tinker around with the neck shaping and see what I can do with that. I'm thinking maybe like a little bit of a V-neck and then join it in the front and then just knit in the round. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that is my plan for that. Okay. And my last item, my 9th Make 9, is going to be the Riviera cardigan, which is one of my most recent cardigan designs. It is this, again, with like the color combination that I love, right? This is a blue and white striped cardigan in that same like deep blue white shade. And I think it's just very nice. It's very nautical. It's a classic, I think. It just fits so well with things in my wardrobe. But I want to remake it in a solid color and just one strand of yarn. And I want to use Drops brushed alpaca silk for that. I think that could be really, really nice. And I want to use, it's like it's a pinkish red. I don't know how that's coming across, but I think that's a really nice statement color. And brushed alpaca silk, this is the colorway 7. Unless they've changed, this is kind of old. This is like the old version of brushed alpaca silk. It's made in Peru. A lot of their yarns are made in the EU now. So this was kind of before they switched over their production. And this is 77% alpaca, 23% silk. It's meant to be used on 5mm needles. Riviera is knit on 4.5mm needles. So that is the plan for that. And yeah, I'm thinking it will be this and like some just really, really pretty gold buttons is the plan. Yeah, so that will be the Riviera cardigan. And I mean, I can't finish this video without having a couple honorable mentions, right? Even though they did not end up on my Make 9. So one of the honorable mentions that will probably honestly end up being made this year anyway is the Daisy cardigan by Knitting for Olive that I want to make for my little girl. So this is like this top-down raglan cardigan design. What I think is extra cute about it is it has these like little crocheted daisies, not crocheted, sorry, these little embroidered daisies and these crocheted buttons. And they use Knitting for Olive merino and then a strand of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. But I want to use this Oslo micro spinnery creme wool that I have in my stash. It is 60% Norwegian lamb wool and 40% Norwegian baby alpaca. And it is in the shade, I can't really tell because that's written in like a very indecipherable cursive, but I think it says red clover, like red clover. Yeah. It's just this really, really pretty, like, it feels magenta to me. I think that's really nice. And I have to buy some mohair that matches it, I think. And that will just be a little cardigan for my daughter. And I don't have any, like, plans yet for this, but I have 10 balls of Cardiff cashmere in this absolutely gorgeous sky blue, baby blue, what have you, this colorway. It is color 556. This is 100% cashmere yarn, 25 grams, 112 meters. I knit the Segla sweater in this yarn in a different colorway. Obviously that was 572. It's like this kind of marled brown and white, and I have 2 balls of that left over, and I'm gonna knit matching Sophie scarves for myself and my daughter, because why not, right? But I do have like a whole sweater's quantity of this, and I want to make something super, super classic with this. I want it to be my own design, and I'm thinking like I want something like a nice saddle shoulder sweater that's like mostly stockinette with very minimal ribbing. I want a folded neck, and I don't know, I want it to be like a wear everyday type of sweater, like it can do no wrong, that kind of just very, very classic, very basic design. And that's kind of what I am planning to make with this. Yeah. So there you have my Make 9 and 2 honorable mentions. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy year. So I'm just off the top of my head, I know I'm not gonna get through everything on my Make 9. So yeah, but we'll see how I go, and then at the end of the year I will do a recap and I will tell you guys where, how it started and how it's going, I guess. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, leave me a comment. I love engaging with you guys so much. It really warms my heart to hear all the wonderful things you have to say. So yeah. Getting in my feels, but yeah. And yeah, if you want to come over and say hello elsewhere, I'm over on Instagram and Ravelry as the Strikkechick, and you can also find me on my own website, strikkechick.com. Until next time, you guys, happy knitting. Bye.